intelligent than the people.
Good evening, everyone. Apologize for the late start. It's about 7:10. I'm going to call the June 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting to order. This time I ask you to silence your cell phones and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizens time, did we get that sheet?
I don't have a sign-up sheet.
Someone said.
Appreciate that, sir.
Thank you, Chad.
I have one person signed up tonight. When you come forward, please state your name and address, and you are allotted 3 minutes. Thomas Council 3rd.
Hello, my name is Thomas Counselor III, and I live in Forest Pine.
Can't hear you too clear. There you go.
Hello?
Mr. Council,
Yeah.
this is Chief Patterson, Franklin Police Department. You're now alleging there has been a fraud and you need restitution. And if you're saying that me and the Franklin Police Department has frauded you, then you need to contact the state police or FBI to investigate us. If you want to seek legal counsel and file a lawsuit for us failing to report, you feel free to do that. But I'm not doing a report.
Okay.
Hello.
First Sergeant Evans, this is Mr. Counsel. I'm on recorded now. How are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Okay, yes, sir.
I can barely hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. I was returning your phone call. Willfully gave you false information. What is it?
It's a lie, that's what it is.
Okay, so what do y'all do
He's
to people?
fired for that.
And you get fired? Because I know some officers who done did stuff, they just gave prisoners cell phones and they go to prison and stuff. So you just get fired.
Yes, that's the ramification for lying.
What's the statute for giving false police reports to the city manager as an officer?
How are you giving a false police report?
Because they lied and gave the city
You
manager.
need to report that to the city manager.
I reported Code of Virginia 18.2-436, 18.2-460, and the burden of proof is to be evaluated congruent with the Code of Virginia. I also have the evidence here. City Manager Burcham, do you know when the report will be ready, and do you also know when the restitution payments will be ready?
We do not answer questions.
Well, I'm just as a citizen of the United States and a citizen of Virginia, I have rights, and because at one point I was threatened with a false police report. So when I gave all of the evidence, I was told to go report to the FBI or the Virginia State Police, and I was told to report back to the city manager. So if there is any, as far as all the information that you have is a burden of proof, congruent with the Code of Virginia, and you could communicate whatever that is congruent with the Code of Virginia in your report. But I do have rights. just like everybody else.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's all I'm here about. So do you know when the report will be ready?
She will be able to call you, leave you a number, and she'll call you.
Okay.
Okay? You want to leave it with her? Or
Well,
please
she
go?
has my information. She has
Okay.
my email address and everything.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have a good one. All right, amendments to the agenda, are there any? Hearing none, I will move to the consent agenda. Approval of May 13th, 2024 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to these minutes?
So move. Second.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion needed?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And so carried. Next item is financial matters. It's the, first item is FY25 budget adoption, and I'll defer that to Interim Simmons.
Well, as the council is familiar, this has been a long process getting to this evening for the proposed adoption of the FY 24-25 budget. Council has spent many hours of work sessions dealing with this at your public hearing that you had on May the 13th. You suggested that we have some consideration of some additional items to be included, those being the Legal Aid Society and Core 3. And we have included, after discussing that with individual council members, your interest in seeing that those be included. But other than that, the budget stands as it was presented to you in that public hearing on May the 13th. I want to say again that, as I said at the last meeting, that this is the product of many of your employees, not just the former finance director and myself and the former manager, but of the departments that have brought this to you tonight. And I'm available to answer any questions, but as you are well aware, this is a long resolution that needs to be adopted, and when you're prepared to act upon it, the attorney has advised that we actually need a roll call vote for its adoption, as opposed to our other method of getting affirmative or negative or abstentions with other items.
Do that, okay? All right, does anybody have any questions before I get going here?
No, sir.
Yeah, what happened to my water?
What happened to your water?
I looked, everybody got water up here but me. I got
Yeah, I got
first.
one. I don't leave. I got this one.
Bobby, too.
I brought mine. No, I brought mine.
We didn't put it in the budget, Mr. Maxwell. I'm
brought
sorry.
I'm like, where my water? Everybody got water. Why ain't I getting water? My
Sold.
mouth is dry. You can't, it's colder.
All right, budget resolution
Wet my whistle for this.
2024-15. Do I have a motion to approve the budget resolution 2024-15?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, before we do that.
Ain't that discussion?
Okay,
I'm just-
that's what I asked for discussion earlier.
You did?
You did?
Go ahead.
All right, okay. Before I can truly vote on the budget, we had a meeting, a joint meeting with the school board, joint meeting in April, and it was asked for 4.9 million for the CTE program because it's fully funded now instead of the way it was we were talking about. So basically, the CTE program would need the 4.9 to move forward. All three camp foundations are supporting the schools, all three. And my question to my colleagues as well as to myself is, do we promote the success and well-being of each student? And I did not see in the budget where that was 4.9. That's my issue.
I can
If it is 4.9, please show it to me.
Yeah, I
And I apologize.
defer it to, the city manager. She's looking.
The amount that is reflected, has been reflected for the school system, in all of your work sessions as well as in, the public hearing that you had on the 13th of May is, the same amount as last year, but separated between operating budget and capital, so it's 4 million, for operating and then 300,000, for capital. And that's the only figures that we have been working with since sometime in, early February or March.
If you recall, in the joint meeting we had with the schools, we talked about 4.9.
That's what they had asked.
They asked for.
They asked for.
Yes.
Yes.
But there was no indication at that time or subsequent to that the council wanted to alter the amount that was reflected in the various work sessions and the proposed budget.
It's been on our sheets at every work session we've had that we've gone over, is what she said. That this was the amount we had pretty much all agreed on.
I do understand what you're saying
Okay.
to a degree, but when we talked in April, we talked about 4.9, and everybody said yes, you know, and so forth. But
I know I wouldn't have.
Not everybody.
no, you
I'm
were
not
not
trying to
there.
be funny,
You-
but I would-
you-
I would-
You were
I
not
didn't,
present. You were not present.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
basically,
well, we had
what
discussion.
I'm saying is, if the school system has a program moving forward, and that's needed, and before, why they had a carryover before was because they'd never been fully funded. It staffed it, fully staffed it, so, and now they're fully staffed it, there's a difference of 600,000.
Yeah,
Okay, and I'm saying,
yeah, that's what a council was talking about at each work session. That's what we all agreed to do. So I really don't understand where we're going with the question. You want to change what we've been talking about since April? I mean, if that's it, go.
yes, because basically, how can you, for the success of our students,
Oh, I get that.
Basically.
I get that.
basically, and that's all I'm saying,
Okay.
and the well-being, it should be 4.9.
So where would you suggest we get the funding from? If that is the case, because I'm an advocate for students for sure, and school systems, and I want to see them succeed. Where would you suggest we get the additional funding from?
Well, we've been funding 4.9 for the last,
No, sir, it was 4.3 last.
4 point.
It's,
no, it's 4.9.
No,
no,
The last 2 years, 4.9.
no.
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it was not.
4.3.
And if I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected, but I really don't remember that being that way.
I mean, can we ask Mr. Carter, if you don't mind?
I
Dr.
was gonna
Carter?
say the school superintendent.
Dr. Carter, could you
Yeah.
address it so I can get clarity? I could have sworn it was 4.3.
I was thinking 4.4.
Okay. Well, then we obviously have a dilemma here.
4.5?
So,
Right,
so in
Can I
the
get a 4.6?
last year, it was 4.4.
okay.
And we were able to survive with that because we weren't fully staffed. Now that we've achieved the goal of actually having a teacher in every classroom, we're up against it. And so the previous years, it had peaked to 4.9 during the previous superintendent's era. And so that's where we stand.
I remember. That's what I thought. Thank you, sir. All right, any further discussion?
Well, yeah. I thought we would motion, second, discussion. So if I'd rather go with the discussion after the motion and the second, before we close.
Well, we can do either or. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Just to be clear, that's a motion to adopt the resolution included in your
Yeah, I make a
packet.
motion to adopt resolution 2024-15.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Go for it.
this is to adopt the budget, right?
Yes, sir.
I expressed that the adjustment in the assessments are causing our citizens to pay more money this year than they paid last year, which is a fancy way or a deceptive way of saying we are raising taxes, even though we're not raising them one way, we're getting the money another. With that said, we have the authority to have level funding so that the citizens would not have a tax increase. And I can't, in good conscience, support tax increases as long as we continue to spend money frivolously. So there are issues, and by the way, I would like to thank you, Ms. Bertram, for finding some funding for Cover 3 in the legal aid department. I think it's reasonable, reflecting the population that we have and that they serve. But I cannot in good conscience vote for our citizens in this economy to have to pay more taxes when we could have leveled so that there was no tax increase to accommodate for the increased property values. We have the authority to lower tax rates the same way we do to raise tax rates. And had we lowered the tax rates, that would have equaled out to the assessments that have gone up on our citizens. So with that in mind, I can't see in good conscience voting for a budget that is going to take more money out of our citizens' pockets.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion?
I would like to chime in just a little bit, only because I know I'm the newest one here, and I know Councilman McLemore has been up here the longest. I was kind of informed, to my understanding, that if there would have been slight increases throughout the time or years, that we wouldn't have ended up here. But I guess according to the longevity of this council prior to me being up here, those increases were not made. Therefore, we have arrived to this place. So I am in favor of the budget. It is unfortunate that it is going to raise taxes, and I have had calls from constituents, especially senior citizens. It is very unfortunate, but I would like to also put on the record, those who have been here before could have made changes all along, and that's why we're here now.
And if
Mr. Mayor, may I respond?
well, let me respond first, and then I'll let you respond. If I may, you are pretty much point on.
I know.
The city's financial status of being able to go forward. We had heard that there was going to be a raise in the assessments. We knew it was coming. And had it not come, unfortunately, the city finances would not have been as pretty as they are now. You would still had to have a big tax increase to balance out what has happened to our economy in the last few years. So with that being said, I totally agree with you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, my response to that is, yes, it's been said that had we been raising it incrementally in the past,
Correct.
we might not have to raise it now. But the argument has been, as it is, we could not continue to spend money that we did not have revenues to accommodate. When we would take on projects throughout the years that we did not have money to fund, then I do not see why we were supposed to raise the taxes even in the past if we knew we didn't have money to pay for it. So that hasn't changed. As long as you are, and we need to look deeply without going into detail inside of a motion at the ways monies are spent. We have monies that are being pretty much, we've got people that are getting paid 3 ways and nobody's even saying nothing about it. We have all kinds of things. I have citizens that complain to me about all these brand new vehicles they see running around. That we didn't get them for free. So I've had people complaining about all kinds of expenditures that we just get. Because the city wants it, we get it. And then you're gonna justify, well, we have to raise your tax. I can't do that. Stop wasting money, and I'll vote to raise taxes after we stop wasting money.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. I'll call for Councilman Johnson.
With the schools hanging in the balance of not the 4.9 of their success, I would have to vote no.
Okay. Councilman Kitchen?
Aye.
I need you to call each name
Name.
out.
Oh,
Just, is that
Councilperson
correct?
Banks.
Yeah, that's what the attorney is suggesting, that we actually.
okay.
Councilman Kitchen, I don't
Aye.
know if that was the name. Councilman
Aye.
Lady Banks. Vice Mayor Smith,
Nay.
McLemore, and I vote aye. All right, so motion carried. Budget amendment 2024-20. Defer back to the interim city manager.
Yes, sir. We have several items that are listed on that budget amendment. A couple as it relates to the school system, the lead paint or the lead hazard program, and then donations that have been received on behalf of the Department of Tourism. And you'll see that the appropriations that match the proposed expenditures in each of those items. There's nothing really unusual here. I would just note that you had a small amount at your last meeting for the lead hazard reduction, and then we found out that there were additional monies available, so that's why you're seeing it 2 meetings in a row.
Gotcha. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve budget amendment 2024-20?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
By name?
Don.
Okay, aye.
Aye.
Nay.
And aye. So carried. Thank you. Next item of business will be old and new business. First up is the cemetery committee update.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I want to call on Chad Edwards, our Director of Public Works, who's been working with a cemetery committee of citizens on some issues that we've had as it relates to our cemeteries and their appearance, and we're very pleased to offer this report today. And we have several members of his committee in the audience. If you all would just stand or raise your hand so that they know that they are here to support the report that Mr. Edwards will be making. And have to say, they have been very attentive to their assignments that they've been given, and have come back with some great ideas. So this is one committee that in my short period of time I can say is really working hard to try to make sure that this aspect of the city has a very attractive appearance and meets the requirements of the current city code. So with that as an introduction, Chad, why don't you go ahead and tell them what we've been up to.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I do want to recognize the committee members I've been working with, Ms. Patrice Jones, Loretta Smith, and Gwendolyn Murphy, who are here tonight. The cemetery committee meets every third Thursday of the month at the Public Works Department. And the goal of the committee is to enhance the appearance of the cemetery by starting to enforce the current ordinances that we have on the books and not allowing items that are in those ordinances that aren't allowed. The items not allowed are placement of homemade markers on graves, the planting of trees, shrubs, or plants, the placement of chairs or benches, the placement of fences, walkways, or stoops, and anything objectionable or injurious to the appearance of the cemetery. That's currently what our ordinance states. In an effort to accomplish these goals, we've placed 2 signs that you can see, and I've given you some handouts at Southview Cemetery. The first sign is a permanent sign, which is the big white one, which lists the rules and regulations that are currently not allowed at the cemetery. We also left some room at the bottom of that, so if anything changes or any new rules and regulations are adopted, we have room to place it on the signs. The second sign is a temporary sign that we made at Public Works that basically tells you what the rules and regulations are, and what we're doing is we're giving until July the 15th, family members of loved ones that are out there to have the opportunity to remove anything that is not allowed at the cemetery on their own and keep it, or what they want to do with it. And then after the 15th, we plan on going in and removing the objects ourselves. We've also placed a flyer in the utility bills that are going to be coming out within the next week, and that's also the last page of your handout, which will go to every utility customer in the city. So we're trying to get the word out to everybody as best we can. Another thing we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to place the public notice on the city's website and the Facebook page. We just wanted to come present it to y'all before we did that. And that's pretty much where we're at so far. Some other items the committee is working on is we're looking to establish a community cleanup day at the cemetery, and hopefully possibly include civic organizations in that. That's one thing that the committee is looking to do. We're also looking at redesigning our current cemetery information flyer. Right now, the flyer lists everything that's in the entire city cemetery ordinance, which is a little overburdened. We want to make it a little simpler and just easier for somebody to understand what we do and what we don't allow at the cemeteries. And lastly, we are researching, considering proposing maybe some ordinance that covers flowers, because there's nothing in our ordinance currently that mentions anything about flowers, like when they can be put out, when they need to be taken down, how long after an interment that the flowers can stay there. So we're kind of looking at other cemeteries and in the area and just try to get some ideas of what they do with the flowers. And that's pretty much where we stand now. I'll take any questions, or if you have any questions for the committee members.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
we want to mention the involvement of the funeral homes, that you're going to be giving them the materials so that
Oh,
they can
yes,
pass
ma'am.
out to-
Yes, ma'am. We will be giving the information to the funeral homes, and also a lot of times the individuals come in and purchase the plots from them. We'll be giving them the information also at Public Works.
Question?
Yes, I have a question. There was a board listed where everyone was buried at in the cemetery, and that board has been removed. And I had some people to call me because they did not know where their loved ones was, and they couldn't locate them to put flowers on their grave during memorial. And
Right.
that's a sort of
The board was actually vandalized and torn up. That's why the board's not out there anymore. Anybody that wishes to find where their loved one is can come to the Public Works Department, and we can make a copy of the map, a small 8.5 by 11 copy of the map that shows them exactly where they're at. And we do that often.
okay, but there are a lot of people who do not live in the city of Franklin that still have members buried in the old part of the cemetery as well as the new part. And when they come, they would go to the board and find where their loved ones is. If there's no board there, it's on the weekend, you're closed.
Right.
How can they find? Because most of the time, they come on the weekend when they're off.
That's right.
And not during the week when they're working.
I agree.
Is it possible it could be linked on the website, like a digital copy?
Very
Second.
possible, yes.
That's a problem,
Yes.
but I
Very
agree.
possible.
Somebody comes in visiting a relative, let's go to mama's grave.
Yeah.
They just go over to the cemetery, and it might be on a weekend, and they may not be internet savvy. So I think that board should be replaced and maintained. I mean, I don't want it to be vandalized, of course. Put a camera on it or something, but that board should be out there so that people can know where their loved ones are buried at.
And we can definitely look at replacing it. That board was purchased years and years ago by the original Southview Cemetery Committee. They raised the money and purchased that board, and that's when it was put up. But we can look at replacing it.
But I do think the idea of putting something on our
Sure.
website is a great
As
one,
well.
as another
As
way for
well.
people to locate that.
Now, my question is, are the rules the same for both cemeteries in Franklin?
Yes, sir.
Did we put these signs I call it 2.5 cemeteries, because,
Right.
you know, we got half of it split on the, because one of those parcels is beginning to look pretty bad with some of these violations too.
Yes,
So are we gonna put these signs on all cemetery, city
Yes, I've
cemeteries?
discussed it with Ms. Bertram, and we will be putting them at Poplar
Okay,
Springs
great,
also.
because if we're gonna do it one, we should do
Yes,
them all.
absolutely.
And
It
they
just
will have the
started-
same
it just-
deadline, the other cemetery?
I don't know that we'll have time to do that because it takes time to get the signs made, so we might have to extend it a little bit for Poplar Springs, once we get the signs installed.
And why don't you hold off until till you get those before you install the ones at Southview?
Well, these are already installed.
They're already installed at Southview.
I think it should be one day as well, because it might take more time at Southview, just honestly speaking.
Yeah, you probably got, what, a half a dozen plots, Poplar Springs, maybe you're gonna have to.
Yeah, something like that.
What do you consider, I saw something I had never seen before. I went to visit my mother's interment over there, and now people have pictures on the,
Headstones.
it ain't the headstone,
No,
but
it's
it's
the entire
on
grave.
the, what do you call it? The vault. The vault, a cover over the vault with the picture of people. Yeah, what is that? Is that good, acceptable, not?
No, sir.
Yes? That's not acceptable? Okay.
No, excuse me, are you talking about, because I've seen a vault where there's a picture of the loved one on there that's made into the vault. Are you speaking about that?
No, I'm talking about that. I've seen those on headstones, which
Okay.
are normal. But there's a new thing. It's almost like a vinyl banner
Exactly.
that they purchased that has the loved one on it, and it's the size of a vault. So it's like a cover that's on the vault of their loved one. So
But basically
those,
what they're doing is putting it on the ground after everything is covered up. They're just putting it on the ground over top of the space.
over the vault, over top of the vault, because you gotta have a vault, right?
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
vault's on the ground. They'll put
I'm
the dirt.
sure it's a
Yeah.
very touchy situation.
So that's gonna be touchy.
Yeah, because you're talking about loved ones.
Yeah.
and, you know,
Yeah.
That's a touchy situation.
That's very touchy subject.
Yeah.
But the purpose is to be able to keep the place clean and nice and be able to cut the grass without taking 4 or 5 times longer than it should take. That's the,
Cause we all gonna feel it.
yeah.
Cause every one of us up here is gonna get
But
constituents.
that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta do what's right.
Chad, why don't you spend a couple of minutes explaining some of the difficulty that we have there because of what is and is not being enforced, and the fact that even the funeral homes are having challenges when they get ready to come to bury someone. But maybe some examples
With
for
their
the council to
equipment.
understand.
Yes.
Yeah, well, a lot of times what happens is after someone is laid to rest and then the family comes back a couple of days later, these spaces are 4 foot wide by 10 foot wide, and there's a pin at every corner of every space in that cemetery. Well, when the family comes back, they don't realize how big the spaces are, and fences end up on other people's graves. They end up, twice as wide as they should be for the space, and then when the next space is sold and the people have to come to dig the graves, they have to remove all that stuff because it's been placed, on another plot. And the grave diggers and the funeral homes are in very much support of getting the cemetery cleaned up. I can
I
promise
should
you that.
say, yeah. Well, that's good. Appreciate what you've been doing at it. We really do. Any more questions?
I just want to say thank you to the committee for coming together. I'm sure that, just sacrificing your time and making decisions on behalf of the city. Thank you for your input and just working together. I've heard nothing but good feedback about how you all are working together, so it just gives me a great pride in knowing that we appointed some really good people. So thank you all.
Thank you.
And we also need additional members,
I was going to
correct?
say, build on that comment, because we need members from really all of the various wards and at large. And right now, it's concentrated in Ward 5, the participation, but we'd love to have
No, we
other
have-
people coming.
She doesn't, what's Ms. Murphy?
Ward 3,
Ward 3.
You don't have or you do?
we
have?
do.
Is it three? Did I get the
Yeah,
number
what
wrong?
ward is she?
No, it's 5.
Ward 3,
So we have
Five.
3 and 5.
3 and 5.
Who's from three?
Nobody.
Ms. Murphy.
I know, who's from my ward? Now I'm embarrassed.
So we need participation, you know.
Well, I
in
have
other
someone
wards.
from Ward 4 when we
Okay.
can do that.
Well, we can do that today.
Well, we thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you ladies for coming tonight and for the
Yeah, thank
the
you.
work that
Thank you.
has been done.
Next, we're gonna be open for council comments. Start with Ms. Johnson.
Yes, well, I have one, that, my constituents asked me, and I just wanted to bring it to the council. And it's a policy, I know, but, it's the, I think $15 late fee on the light bill and the other fees. And they were wondering why, if a person could not pay their bill in the beginning on time, why was the extra bills added to pay before they can get the lights back on? I don't know if you wanted to address that now or some other time, or, but I told them I would raise the question, so, you know. And
Well,
Well, I'm trying to understand the question. The fee schedule that we have is one that is adopted by the council, and actually was just a part of the budget resolution that you all adopted a few minutes ago. The reconnection fee is what I believe you're referring
Yes.
to, which occurs when someone fails to pay their bill on time. And we have to go out, turn it off at the meter, and then when the person comes in to pay, whenever that is, the same day, 2 days later, a week later, there is that reconnection fee, because we have to go back out again as staff and make that connection possible. If that's something that the council wants to look at, we'd be happy to, at another time, discuss that, but that is the fee that is applied in each and every instance. And I know, Mr. Johnson, I met with one of your constituents recently who had concern that payments that are made in between billings, sometimes they are reflected in terms of what's now due, but they don't see those transactions listed, so it sometimes is confusing, but the utility billing people are prepared to give that level of detail to every citizen that requests it.
okay, I just wanted them to know, basically. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kitchen?
Just want to thank Ms. Burcham for putting up with my almost daily emails and phone calls to get things done. And if I don't get on her nerves, I'm getting on Chad Edwards' nerves, or Selena Boone's nerves, or Scott Miller's nerves. Thank you for having open communication.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
No comments.
Okay. Vice
No
Mayor?
comments.
Well, I'd like to address just a minute this perceived tax increase that we just received, because, and you know, I've had this discussion basically all my life, my working life. We didn't raise taxes. We reassessed the property to its current market value. Its current market value, everyone that owns a piece of property in Franklin, Virginia, or anywhere else, is seeing the results of inflation and escalation in the price of real estate. And all the people that got tax increases actually increase the value of their property when and if they go sell it. So it's really not a tax increase. It could appear to be that way, but it's a double-edged sword, really. I told the city manager that. It's a double-edged sword, because if you don't assess it to current market value, then when you go sell your property, you don't get the true value out of it most of the time. And if you do reassess your property, you got to pay more taxes based on its value. And I've looked at a lot of real estate here recently, and I don't know of any community anywhere in the country that the property values haven't just about doubled. So I think we cannot sit and say this is a tax increase, because it's not a tax increase. That's all.
Because we kept the same rate, correct? $1.03.
$1.03, same
Right.
rate.
So it's not, like you said, it's
They're
not.
paying more
Right, because of the
taxes, but yes,
assessment.
yes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
If I may point out very quickly before Mr. McEnroe goes, one of the things Ms. Bertram pointed out, we do it, the taxes, the land assessment every 2 years. When maybe we should look at doing it every year, then it won't be such a
That's true.
shock
That's a great point.
to our citizens, because it is a shock. Shock to me, shock.
Right.
But, you know, it is what it is.
It,
We can't change that one.
Right.
you're right, but if I may add to what you're saying, to, yeah, we are discussing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but it's supposed to be comments,
uh,
individual comments for thought. But,
well,
go ahead, Knox.
bear with me, my friend, bear with me. To hire the assessment team, do you know about what it costs a year?
That I don't have that figure. I'd be happy to provide it to you.
Was that in the book at $113,000?
That sounds right.
Think about that when you say every year, because that's 2 pennies to the tax rate for the consumer. So think about that for saving the people money going forward, because if you
Yes.
do it every year, it's $113,000 you got to put up. Pretty sure I'm right on that.
It sounds right, but I don't
Councilman
know.
McEnroe, go ahead, please.
Well, my comment, first I'd like to say I commend Ms. Bertram. 14 years, we've never had opportunities for council to have comments. So I commend you for instituting that policy. I've always felt we should have an opportunity to speak freely. In regards to this tax stuff, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. You can cry about how it's not a tax increase. All I know is a citizen has to kick out more money to the city this year than they had to pay last year. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. I'm concerned with this economy and people not having to spend it, particularly. We talk about if we raise it a penny a year. When's the last time we ever went down a penny on our citizens? Never. We have organizations that we fund that don't serve the entire community. We have people that are getting paid on the council more than their salaries from the city. We have people on councils that ain't volunteering their salary and they're millionaires. We've got all kinds of situations where monies are going out of the city into people's pockets, but yet we're asking, come on, citizens, give us some more money because the assessments have gone up. Yeah, we can try and justify it all we want, but the bottom line is there are too many places in this city. I heard, shocked me, I heard that we just hired somebody as an assistant to somebody, and I won't call because it may go, I ain't calling no names, to assistant department head when the department head is not familiar with their job. Now, how is that department head gonna teach an assistant? But yet we're gonna pay an assistant when there's nobody to train the assistant, because the department hadn't been trained yet. But it's okay. The citizens are the ones paying for it. So when you talk about how we spend money, that's the only thing we have control over. We try to get money from people. But to me, it's to be done with bringing businesses and more residents, because otherwise we put a greater burden on the existing citizens. And I just can't see it. I always said from the time I got up here, I was going to vote the way my mother would want me to vote. And that's not to raise taxes on people when you wasted money. So finally, I want to invite everybody out. We won't have another meeting, to the second annual Juneteenth Cultural Celebration, a 3-day event going on the 14th, 15th, and 16th It's designed to have cultural features. We have a Nat Turner story tour. We have a basketball tournament. We have bouncy houses and things for the children. We've got live bands. We've got celebrity impersonators, comedians. It's going to be a great 3 days. And the reason it's 3 days is because we can't compete with the largest cities with 1 day. But I hope that the citizens that are at home listening will come on out and support the second annual Juneteenth cultural celebration. It's all free to the public. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I'll go to you for your city manager report.
All right, I have a couple of things. First of all, I want to show you all in the community a sign that we have just had produced that will be placed on properties where a rezoning is being considered, so that the public will in fact have some additional information or knowledge about where rezonings are potentially being considered. We are also in the process of having made a similar sign that will announce where code enforcement is under action for a particular property. We'll do those particularly on vacant properties so that, again, the community knows we're making our efforts, but we do have to, as the council's familiar with, certain practices and policies that we have to follow and guidelines, and you all are familiar with the fact that we're hoping to change some of those regulations with a new ordinance, perhaps by your next meeting, that will put some additional opportunities for us to get to some of that code enforcement stuff sooner. But this is another way for us to try to make the community aware of our efforts as it relates to the zoning activity and code enforcement. We have some good news on behalf of the Department of Social Services. They finally are moving. In fact, they started that move today. Will actually continue probably until Friday of this week, but we finally have a punch list completed, and the building has its occupancy permit, and the individuals who work there are very excited about being able to move. They also are finding what we all find, which is when you start to move, you have a lot more stuff to move than you thought you had, and you don't even remember how you got some of that, but it's there to be moved. I'm pleased to report that the renovation at the King Center, which I happened to have the opportunity to visit in the last week or so, is 45% complete. And I want to give kudos to Sam Bailey. She is really, really making sure that that facility is going to be top-notch. She's gone after a number of grants and is working hard with Public Works to make that a showcase building, even given its age. So hopefully you'll see more on that soon. We do have the pool opening on the 8th of June. There is a family wellness fun day that I'm going to miss, but it's on Saturday, June the 8th from 10 to 2 at the Armory Sports Complex, and a lot of work has gone into planning that day. It should be a great day for the city and for people that are there enjoying the day. We have a second Juneteenth event, the one that is sponsored by the city on Saturday, the 22nd of June, that I hope that individuals watching as well as those that are here will also find as an opportunity to participate in the celebration of what Juneteenth really means to us as not only a community but as a nation. I did receive word today that the temporary courthouse is finally closing as of the 15th of July so that they can move into their renovated courthouse in Southampton County. I heard today that an employee of ours of some, I think I've got the number right, 22 years, Joanne Fost, who's been our accountant, is retiring as of the 1st of July, so we're scurrying around trying to divvy up some of those responsibilities to be prepared for her departure. And unfortunately, to answer Mr. McElmore's question before he asked it, we still have not been able to identify a suitable candidate for the finance director position. Want to also mention, as I think the council is well aware, that I will be gone beginning the 8th of June through the 23rd of June. My family back last December planned a trip out of the country. There's 6 of us traveling together, and I have designated 2 individuals that I think the council will be pleased with my selection to serve 1 week each in the acting capacity. The Chief of Police, Steve Patterson, will serve that first week that I'm away, and Sam Green Bailey will serve in that capacity as acting city manager that second week. I have made arrangements so that I will have both phone and cell coverage and email coverage should they need to get in touch with me while I'm away, but they are both very competent and capable individuals, and I assume you agree that they will do a nice job. And Mr. Mayor, I think that's all that I have on my list, unless there are questions. The council has any other items.
Well, we don't have a question, but I hope you have a great vacation.
Yes.
Any questions?
I
Where
do
you
have,
going?
I do have one, Australia.
Oh, interesting. Back on, down under.
Down under, have never been that, I'm not sure I can survive a 14-hour airplane ride, but I'm going to see how that works. I had one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I probably could wait until the 24th of June, but I know you all have heard me say on a number of occasions what a dedicated staff you have. And we are lean. I don't want to say we're mean, because I think that you have a very supportive staff, but they really work tirelessly and put in many, many hours. I have looked at the calendar, and the 4th of July is a Thursday. And I would like to suggest to the council that in recognition of the hard work of your employees, that you grant Friday, July the 5th as an additional holiday, which will give our employees an extra day off and a 4-day weekend for those that don't have to work our 24-hour shifts. But I think that's just a nice gesture. There's obviously, small expense involved in that, but the goodwill that I think that the council will receive will go a long way and be worth a whole lot more than what that additional day costs.
I think that's your decision.
I don't think I can grant a holiday without the council's permission.
So moved. We can, any
Second.
discussion? Well, go with it. We got a motion. We have a second.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that?
I think if the governor gives me and Ms. Copeland that same day, we're all for the city giving it. What do you think? No. Aye, yeah,
Aye. No, you go.
aye.
Aye.
And,
On behalf of your employees, I thank you.
well,
Thank you for the
Thank you.
suggestion.
I think you heard from us in the beginning that we thought they could be put up against anybody, so.
That's right.
good.
You're
We
absolutely
appreciate
right.
all of it. Do I have any council staff reports on boards and commissions?
No, I don't have it. We'll have a jail report next. It'll be on the 24th.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I will say we adjourn this and move into closed session.
So moved.
Wait a minute, Ms. Smith.
You gotta read.
Oh, actually,
Move that the City Council of the City of Virginia adjourn into closed meeting pursuant to the authority granted by those sections of the Code of Virginia referenced from the agenda for the benefit purposes provided and discuss those subjects described and set forth in the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion needed? I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 And aye. So carried. We're now closed. Thank everybody for coming out tonight.